5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning, everyone. Hopefully, everybody's having a fantastic Tuesday. We're coming off of NASCAR All-Star Weekend. It was a packed schedule, but a packed house in North Wilkesboro. I mean, we had every type of racing happening this weekend on site at this Racetrack Revived. I mean, truly one of the best overall put together events of the year. Cars Tour modifieds were racing. We had open races, heat racing. I don't know, something about the format of this entire weekend just sits correctly with you, you know? So really an awesome weekend, something that we can all kind of get behind, hopefully, in terms of how it felt. Didn't love some things. There were definitely some things that were left to be desired, but that's okay because that's what this is for. The All-Star Weekend. I feel like people forget that. They expect it to be beautiful and perfect right out of the rip. So, for me, I think there were some things that were left on the table that maybe next time around they could tweak and do a little bit differently. In terms of the actual racing, I thought the actual racing, it was better than some other short tracks we've seen this year. I hear people saying it was the best short track race on the schedule. The way that the track allows multi-groove racing, even though it's a short track, it's better than some of the parade lap races that we've had at short tracks this year, which I'm happy with that. I don't think there's a solution to the short track package. I think they still need to go through things and kind of figure that out. The no shifting aspect of Wilkesboro seems to allow the drivers to be a little bit more zeroed in on making the moves versus, it's one less thing to think about, not having to hit shift points. And it gives you that opportunity to kind of, be a little bit more locked in on what you're going to do in terms of strategy and passing and understanding where on the track you are and what you need to be doing to make it happen. So I didn't hate the racing. I thought, it's unfortunate that the most exciting racing of the night was after a promoter's caution. The promoter's caution itself was something that I just scratched my head at it. I understand its purpose, and I like the result of it because it brought the field back together. It gave everybody a chance to play strategy one more time. Whether they wanted those new tires or they wanted to stay out like the Penske cars did. So that aspect of it is very interesting to me. But Michael Waltrip up there on the flag stand dropping the yellow I couldn't contain. I don't know. It just seemed a little silly. And then they had all the fireworks and stuff for a caution, and it was a little overplayed for me. I thought it would just kind of be like a deal where somebody hits the button in the tower and they bring out the caution, and there wouldn't be as much fanfare. I see that. Yes. So the caution was going to happen because Larson was off the pace and having some issues. He bent the toe link, washed up into the wall. But I think it's just the idea of it that kind of rubs me the wrong way. But, it's a deal where I think the overall takeaway for me, though, is we saw a lot of great short track racing this weekend in the Cars Tour. For the 10 laps, the modifieds could keep it green. I thought that was really, good racing. Modifieds always race really well. It's one of my more preferred series of racing. I got to take in some modifieds this weekend at Wall Stadium Speedway's 75th opening night. Some stories there. That'll be fun to share with everybody in a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. The overall feeling from the weekend, it felt good. I didn't feel, off put by any of the all-star racing itself. I think it's just it's a place to be to learn. It's a place to be to try to get better. Big Duke. Good morning, Big Duke. Big Duke's got a new show, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. Nitro Nation, Monday nights on ATYL Media. If you're a drag racing fan, if you're an NHRA person, you need to be watching Nitro Nation with Big Duke. Big shouts to Duke. He's taken this gauntlet of NHRA. He's grabbing her right by the horns, and he's putting down some great content. I think his first interviews with Ron Capps, the Ron Capps, if you are unaware, drag racing NHRA royalty. So make sure you check that out too while you're poking around here on the old Slide Job morning show, Splash and Dash morning show. But All-Star racing in the next gen car, racing in the next gen car at short tracks is just not what it should be. I don't think that's wrong to say. I think everybody is kind of on the same page with, we're not subscribed to this product the way it is. The only way you're going to move somebody is knock them out of the way. The comedy of Joey Logano complaining about the move that Christopher Bell put on him to win that race. I mean, it's the best, because it's insane. It's insane to me that Joey would have an issue with that when Joey himself has been the aggressor in those situations more times than not. And I do try to give benefit of the doubt in the moment. He's coming off of a tough deal there where he's the one getting shuffled out. It's a hot pit road. It's, you're getting interviewed. You got cameras in your face right as it's happening. Maybe you're going to pop off and spout out and say something you maybe wish you gave a second or two more thought about. It's always different when it happens to you. But yeah, like the Kenseth deal and all these other, like, I remember when he wrecked Byron at Darlington, and he has a long, rich history of, okay, I do that and then I'm going to complain about it. But I guess that makes good TV at the end of the day. It makes pretty okay TV at the end of the day, but that's about all it does. For those of us who've kept track of Logano and his career over the years, we know that's a little hypocritical of him. So the truck race, we go back to the trucks too. Truck race was unreal. I was watching that, I thought there was good movement in the truck race in terms of what the short track racing was in that. Heim, again, just absolutely dominant until he wasn't, on that overtime restart. They don't want to show me the results from that. It's not updated on NASCAR's website. Point standings are updated though. But I got no finishing order from. I got no finishing order on NASCAR.com. Huh. Anyway, yeah, the trucks were interesting. Heim obviously not happy with Lane Riggs after the kind of slide job deal. It was the same move. So almost the same move. That's something that we noticed, we learned together as part of this North Wilkesboro experience, is you can't really put the slide job on anybody here. The track's wide enough to run 2 and 3 wide, but it ain't wide enough to shoot down and watch up in front. There's just not enough time where you're going to get all the way clear, at least at the speeds they're doing right now. I don't know. It's a move that you have to make if you're Lane Riggs to try to win the race. I thought he kept the cap on it as much as he could. They were running great all day. That 38 truck, they've run great the last, how many weeks. This year has been a big upswing for them, and just trying to make something work is not easy. And I get why he shot it down in there. And Lane Riggs moved up one spot this week in the playoff standing, or in the point standings. Corey Heim's going to sit at the top no matter what. And I get Heim's not going to be happy about it, because Heim's only got so many weeks left in the truck series before he ends up moving his way up to Cup or to some other higher form of racing, right? So Heim wants to just stack these wins up, because once he leaves the truck series, he ain't going back unless it's a one-off, like what Carson Hocevar or other drivers are doing right now, Kyle Busch, so on. But I thought, I thought it was just one of those deals where you're just trying to throw everything in the kitchen sink at him. The guy wins every race. Lane Riggs just had to give himself a chance. And then ultimately, Chandler Smith is the one who ends up winning the race. Chandler Smith, the guy who thought he was going to be, hammering nails into wood for his dad's construction company after last year, his experience at Joe Gibbs ran out. Second in points in the 38 truck in the truck series. Lane Riggs runs a 34. Sorry if I misspoke earlier. But it's Heim time in the truck series. And if he could get these green, white checkered deals to go away and some of these cautions to go away and not get wrecked, he'd have 5 or more wins this year already. He's got 3. There's probably another 3 that have been left on the table for him. I don't hate it. I'm not Corey Heim, so I don't hate it because it's great for the fans. It's entertaining for the fans. If I'm Corey Heim, I hate every minute of it. He deserves to win those races, and guys are just banging him around a little bit to try to make themselves competitive. But that's where Heim has to turn around and take it as a compliment that he's got these guys so desperate. He's so good. He's got them so desperate to win races that they'll throw everything in the kitchen sink at this guy to try to just get a piece of him. I know that's a hard mentality to have if you're the one who's getting spun around going through, turn 3. But in the end of the day, Corey Heim is going to be the one who ends up making out in this deal. I hope we get to see him run a full season of Xfinity from a fan perspective before he goes to Cup. I think he would be a monster in Xfinity. I'd love to see him face off against some of the veterans of that series and even some of the rookies that want a piece of the Cup Series pie that are trying to earn their stripes and move their way up. I think it would be it would make for a great competitive series next year. Hopefully Xfinity decides to go to North Wilkesboro next year. I hope that they would be able to behave themselves enough to really make it work. It would be a wild weekend. Cup, Xfinity, Truck, Cars Tour, Modifieds. That's 5 series. That's a lot of racing in one weekend period where Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, something like that, or you have 2 races in one night. It'd be wild. I was saying so we have an interview today. Today's the first day of our interviews. Probably should have done a little better to promote it, but it's the first one, and we're learning and evolving. And we haven't totally figured it out on top of everything else that's going on. But we did an interview with Buddy Pulley, ATYL's own. Buddy's a Cars Tour guy, does at track coverage for Cars Tour. Buddy was at North Wilkesboro this weekend, and he spent time covering everything at the track. He got a media badge to be everywhere that he needed to be for everything. So it'd be interesting to hear him kind of talk about how he feels the weekend can be structured and what the development looks like. I mean, you could have a driver develop from a North Wilkesboro weekend development system from Cars Tour, whether they come in from Cars Tour, from Modifieds, they'll come up into Trucks and Xfinity from there. They could go into the Cup Series from there. Everything could be captured in that one moment in terms of every series that you want to be running in being there at once. I know there's a lot of people who want to run, legends and things like that too. But in terms of like the NASCAR feeder pipeline, Cars Tour, I think, is becoming a more predominant piece of the pie versus, we said it in the interview and you'll hear it, but the pay to play model is great for teams to make money, but it's not great when their cars are finishing at the back of the field because maybe some of their drivers are less than fully equipped to run these races. Maybe the cars are less than fully equipped to run these races. I don't know. I'm not there. I don't, every team has their own challenges, but I think the Cars Tour and series like them are, there's a reason that Kevin Harvick and Dale Jr. and, Justin Marks are investing in this series in a pretty big way. And, it's just a matter of okay, there's big money getting thrown around. How come? How come it's going there and they're not trying to start a, truck team or a Cup team or an Xfinity team. How come that's where the money went? I mean, if you see the racing product, it's very entertaining. It's giving people a ton of experience. They're really cutting their teeth. The competition is really, really, really high. And I don't know. I thought it was really entertaining racing from the car story after they got through the first handful of laps. They figured it out faster than the modifieds could. They only ran about a handful of green at the end. Modifieds. It was mostly pacing. I don't know why those guys couldn't seem to figure it out. They figured it out at Wall this weekend pretty good. Not too many issues in that race. So Wisconsin native here. Still enjoy watching Luke Fenhouse, but he's having to pay big money. That's what it's gonna. That's what the sport is. There's a money factor to the sport that you have to. Either you have it or you don't. and that's the sponsorship thing too. Like either back in the day, guys were going out and finding these sponsors and getting sponsorship deals. You could be anyone as long as you had the pedigree to drive the car and win races. Now it's turned into a place where the racing is getting so expensive for the average person that it's gonna it's transforming mostly into folks who are owning their own businesses or have a family history of business ownership and that kind of financial stability and flexibility. So I'm not putting it down. People work hard for their money, and if they choose to contribute to the racing world by driving, I think it's awesome. I think it's great for us as fans, and it gives us an opportunity to see these guys continue to race week in and week out. Because without that, unfortunately, without that kind of financial contribution, they probably wouldn't have a lot of cars out there. But I do wish it was the old way. I think there's a lot of very talented drivers that get looked over because they don't have the cash to splash in the big series. Brendan Queen is another example of Cars Tour talent equating to ARCA success. I think you could put Butterbean in an Xfinity car, or a truck right now. I think, for me, he's ready. That's why I don't run these programs. But he was great in the Cars Tour. He's won 2 races in ARCA already. He won Daytona his first time out, basically, with a blindfold on and one arm tied behind his back. He's killing it. So there's definitely something to be said. It's where we've had drivers like Josh Berry come up from. He's the original guy come up from Cars Tour and now win at Las Vegas in a Cup car. So there's obviously a pathway there. If owners see value and want to give drivers a chance, it's definitely a viable pathway to the top. If Cup racing is the goal, there's a lot of Cars Tour drivers that are going to stay in the Cars Tour that like that kind of racing, and who blames them? Not me. I mean, it's the same in every series where you're going to have guys who are, Xfinity Series veterans. Like that's always the funniest, kind of dichotomy to me, is like Xfinity Series veteran. Well, Xfinity Series is where names are made. Yeah, but it's not, because there's guys there who've been there for how many years, multi-time champions in the Xfinity Series, that are just going to stay in that series because their sponsors are really good to them there. They're competitive at that level. They don't want to give up their Saturday ride for something they don't know what they're getting on Sunday. So F350, what's going on, dude? Sponsors used to sponsor the cars, and owners went and got the driver. Now the sponsors dictate the driver. Well, yeah, that's the perfect way to put it. The model flipped, and that's why some of the drivers are who they are and have the sponsors on the side of the car that they have. It's not something that it's money. Nobody's going to say no to the money. So it's like, it's going to continue to be that way. Yes, Allgaier is that perfect concoction of Xfinity Series, career Xfinity Series journeyman. I think there's a lot to be said about his contribution. At the end of the day, he'll hang his hat up and he'll have his championship and all the success that Allgaier has had in the Xfinity Series. But how do you quantify all of the experience he's given to drivers that have then moved into the Cup Series over the years? How do you quantify all the hard battles that he's had with these young guys that then led them to be better drivers themselves in the future? I think there's something there too. I think you need these veterans of the Xfinity series to really show drivers that young drivers coming up, okay, this is how you're supposed to be racing in this series. It's kind of a supplement to the fact that Cup guys don't come back down as often as they used to. And I hate to say it too, Kyle Larson coming back down and putting a whooping on everybody like he does. It's fun to watch, and it reminds the field that he's the best driver. But it's not teaching anybody anything. It's not like they're running close battles. It gives the team something to look forward to. But Kyle Larson is as good as he is in the Xfinity series. He is the best driver, but he's got the best equipment. So, I think it's more valuable to have those longer term placed Xfinity drivers than the current situation of Cup driver coming down, at least with Larson. If you put them all in the same car, let them all run side by side, you'd see the cream rise to the top. But it's a little different. The way guys set cars up and teams have resources and so on. But that was a long conversation about the Cars Tour. There's a little bit of a preview into a conversation you'll be able to listen to here in the next half hour with myself and Buddy. We recorded it last night. It's the first one we've done. It's a great interview with Buddy. Buddy's a great guy. I didn't really know Buddy very well ahead of this, so it's why I really enjoy doing the interviews. You get to learn about the other person and really get to tell some stories about their fandom and what their plans are and what they enjoy and some hot takes that they have about the series and why they really have a passion for it. I think it's something where the outside person looking in goes, oh, it's a bunch of grown men going left. Like, why? Like, shouldn't y'all have jobs or something? And it's like, well, you need to understand where these things come from and why people have a passion for it the way they do, and then you'll get it a little better. But that interview was a good one. Hopefully there'll be some more good ones coming up. I actually have to. Okay, it's in this folder. So I have to pull the file up in two places. What a pain in the tuchus. Oh my brother Lord. Yeah, that's gonna be a pain. All right, we'll figure that out. But what did we all think of the All-Star weekend? What was the feedback from everyone out there? Because I've heard a lot of differing opinions. People thought it was really great, and then I've had people who, have said to me that they don't ever want to see it again. They were disinterested in that type of event. They are not locked into what NASCAR's idea of the gimmicky stuff is. Okay. I want to hide this right now. Hold on. Sorry, guys. Give me 1 sec. I'm doing a thing on TikTok. Oh, boy. I'm doing all kinds of a mess. I'm making a big mess over here. And then it's hollering at me too at the same time. Okay. And then we're going to hide this. And then we're going to put this here. Okay. All right. Cool. Okay. Hopefully it works out. Perfect. Just the way I need it to, even though it says it's red. It says no video signal, but it's there. It's there. I see it. Right? Yeah, it's literally right there. Okay. Anyway, I'm curious to understand maybe how people felt about it. Just because I've listened to a few people in the media and there's some folks who want to see it come back to Wilkesboro. I think Wilkesboro is ready for a points payer. I don't think that's hot a hot take or new news to anybody. They obviously have this product that they can put on track. You know, if you ran a 400 mile or a 300 mile race there, with natural cautions and stage breaks and the whole thing, it'd be great. I fear that another track will lose a date, which I hate. There's so many tracks, and I'm gonna go on my Northeast elitism rant right now. There's too many tracks in the Southeast near Charlotte that are getting dates. The sport isn't a regional sport anymore. It's supposed to be global. It's marketed globally. You're in Mexico. You're in these emerging markets, right? I just don't know how. I just don't know how they're gonna add more dates in the 150-mile radius of the Charlotte metro area. I think that's a little rough on the fans. It's rough on fans like me who go to Dover every year and they sell out at Dover because we only have one date as it is. So the promoter caution hurt the finish because Larson was on old tires on a wild line up top and was headed to the front quickly. I mean, Larson ended up knocking the wall there toward the end. A lot of people didn't have an issue with the promoter's caution because Larson slid up into the wall, bent the toe link on the right rear, and probably would have been the reason a caution came out, even without Waltrip being up there dropping the flag all over the front stretch. A lot of people think Michael Waltrip dropped that flag on purpose. I've seen that rumor circulate also. I don't know what to think about that. I didn't think about it that much, to be honest with you. I saw somebody else talking about it, and I was like, that's interesting. But I never thought about it that in depth about dropping a flag on a track. But regardless, I don't know. I didn't see how much progress Larson had made after the fact or how they were able to fix that toe link. I just saw him wash into the wall. I mean, he's going to be the guy to beat at Charlotte this weekend, I think, this coming weekend, even despite his journey of the double going from the Indy 500 to the Coke 6. There's a lot of updates and information in the IndyCar world for those who are not paying attention. I am only paying attention because I am concerned about how much racing I can watch in one day. And I want to make sure that I have all the information before I flip both TVs on to watch the Indy 500 and the Coke 6 back to back. So I know the Penske cars, they filled a gap between two, what we would call single source parts. The parts are married together, they're married together. And then there's a gap, right? Like between my fingies and my hand. They filled that gap with some type of caulk or lubing or glue or whatever they use. I used to say caulking, like we're building a kitchen on the side of an Indy car. But they filled it and they weren't supposed to. and it's caused the 2 and the 12 to start at the rear of the Indy 500 on Sunday. So that was big news for the IndyCar world. I found it kind of funny that they all kind of freaked out over that, where, in NASCAR, we have those types of penalties and guys get sent to the rear all the time. Like the Chris Buescher penalty too. Like I didn't really talk much about that during the week. Chris Buescher got a big L1 penalty. They waited to appeal and they didn't even try to appeal it. They announced this morning or yesterday that they weren't going to appeal it. So, I think there's more of that culture of you ain't cheating, you ain't trying in NASCAR, where in IndyCar, it's a little bit more, suit and tie, and everybody is expected to kind of be professional and not try to cheat the system and go out there and run a good, fair, clean race for the Indy 500. I don't know. It's not a big deal to me. They started them at the back. That's all. People were saying they don't deserve to win. They didn't deserve to win or to be in the race. I think that's a little bit of a stretch, I think that's a little bit of a stretch not to have them in the race. They still qualified. They still brought cars that were fast. They would have still made the race regardless. I heard somewhere that Joseph Newgarden's last 2 winning 500 cars also had it. I mean, it's possible. If they're just getting caught this time, it's certainly possible that they've had other opportunities to utilize this kind of sneaky deal that they found a place they could find a little speed. The other thing too with the IndyCar stuff, and this isn't an IndyCar show, but there's a lot of conversation around the IndyCars flipping over. Now we have that problem in NASCAR all the time, and all they want to talk about is lower the power, lower the power, lower the power. But in IndyCar, they give them more power for qualifying. And I didn't realize that. They give them more horsepower for qualifying than they do in the race. So somebody had explained it, a friend of a friend through the grapevine at ATYL, kind of in the know on these things. Just the way that the pressures are being put on the cars, the way that they're running and the speeds they're running this year, they're just different. And the teams haven't quite figured out, at a certain speed, the pressure to the front of the car is different than the rear of the car. And the aerodynamics are forcing the car up a little bit. And once they get up a little bit, it's turning into a deal where they're just taking flight like we've seen them take. That person didn't seem too overtly concerned. They felt that the IndyCar teams would have it figured out by Sunday, and wouldn't have too much of an issue. So I hope, just for safety, obviously, you want your guy to win, but there's obviously a ton of safety to look at there, and just hope everybody gets through a great weekend. NHRA, Dom Joseph in the YouTube. Smoke, a 2-time Top Fuel dragster winner at Route 66, winning another Top Fuel event. This guy's done it all. He's doing it all. It's incredible to see Tony Stewart doing NHRA things the way he does. And I think the broader impact of Tony Stewart drag racing has now been, some of our favorites from the Cup Series are getting invested in it in terms of, wow, that's fast. Tony goes over 300 miles an hour. I don't know how he does it. I think that's the hardest thing he could do. It's in terms of speed and understanding how to control that car. That's, a lot of drivers. There's a great interview, if you haven't heard it, Dale Jr. and Kevin Harvick talk a little bit about just the sensation of speed at that level, where, this could be the crown jewel of Tony Stewart's career, where he's doing these NHRA events. It might be the most difficult form of motorsport that he's ever done. Now I personally, I don't have a tremendous depth of knowledge of NHRA and how those cars run and how they operate. I know that they're a modern marvel of human engineering, because, it's basically an airplane with no wings. It's a V8 airplane. These cars are unbelievably fast, especially at the top fuel level. So I'm really amped for the fact that NHRA is getting this big marketing push. And at ATYL, we've been really blessed to get great access, and they've been such a great series to work alongside with. I haven't worked alongside with them directly, but it seems like they're very invested in growing the sport and being a bigger factor on the motorsports stage right now than they are, which is, you love to see that investment. And we're here for it. We're here to help it. So I love the I like the for no reason other than the sponsors, and it just shows how sponsorship can help sway fans. I love Buddy Hull, Jim Dunn Racing. They have a Moon Eyes sponsorship. Big Moon Eyes guy. It's like how people are invested in certain brands. I don't know why. I don't have a 50s hot rod, but I think the Moon Eyes branding is so iconic in American automotive and in American motorsports. It's super cool. And I don't know. It's just one of those deals where I want to support that guy. So, and that's in a different series outside of Top Fuel. That's in I don't know the names of them. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't. The names are, there's so many different types of events. I'm trying to look now. So there's Funny Car, there's Top Fuel, there's Pro Mod, there's Super Stock, there's Stock Eliminators, Super Gas, Top Dragsters. There's so many different things that they do run. that it's kind of tough for my little pea brain to keep up with it all. But it is a ton of fun to watch, and I hope to get, I say this about every series. I want to get more involved in Formula D. I want to get more involved in NHRA. I want to get more involved in modified racing. I want to pay more attention to the Cars Tour. It is very hard to pay attention to all these series, but it's great to do. Yeah, 12,000 horsepower in those Top Fuel cars, by the way. Dom is in here spitting facts. 12,000 horsepower Top Fuel dragsters. Imagine 12,000. We're pissing and moaning over 1,000 horsepower in the Cup cars. Imagine 12,000 horsepower. Crazy. It's going to kill me that I can't find this guy's name. Going to kill me. It's going to kill me. Schedule/results. Nope. Pro mods. What are these? What is this? Specialty series. There's so many different series. It's like incredible to see what they're all about. Drag racing is one of those sports too where it's still not like financially unattainable for people to get involved, at least at a certain level. Another reason we love drag racing too. They'll be heading to the New England Nationals. Will be May 30th to June 1st. That's up, I believe that's up at Loudon. They have a drag strip there. Let me make sure. This way, if you're interested in attending, it's in Epping, New Hampshire. So up that way, New England Nationals, Top Fuels will be there. Northeast, as many Northeast racing events as you can get out to. That's what you should do. At the ZMAX Dragway in Charlotte, Brittany Force set the speed record at 341 miles an hour. 341.58. Can you imagine going 341 miles an hour, Dom? I would lose the skin off my face. That's crazy. It just shows you how far the limits of, engines and engineering can be pushed. That's the part that makes it the most interesting to me, I think. Obviously it's about reaction time and being able to get down the drag strip faster than the guy next to you or the girl next to you. But just the way these cars are set up where they run 12,000 horsepower, they go 341 miles an hour, then they pull them back into their like garage area. They strip the whole car down. They rip the engine apart. And then they set it up all brand new for another pass. Like they'll run like one engine runs like two passes and then they'll rip it apart. And then that's it. Okay. New engine now. It's crazy to me. It takes a village to do. When I was down in Charlotte, I ran into Doug Coletta's team at booth 34 at ICAST. And they were kind of chatting with me a little bit about it and telling me, they travel all over the country and here's what they do and this is what it takes. And my mind was like in a pretzel listening to them talk. Like they thought I knew what they were talking about, but the stuff that they were talking to me about and explaining to me, like my head looked like one of those cartoons with that big red thing on it. Like it hurts. A lot of information to try to process. I took math 4 times. I'm not a numbers guy. Oh. But now the drag racing stuff, the Top Fuel stuff, what is it going to take for us to get a weekend or a week-long like motorsports extravaganza where like NHRA runs a Wednesday night, mods run a Thursday night, Cars Tour runs Friday night, Truck and Xfinity run on Saturday or run on Friday, Cup races on Saturday or Sunday. Like imagine if you had all the top series of motorsports lock arms together and do it in one centralized location, like one weekend a year. I wonder how big it would be. And then like outside of those races, there's dirt races going on, sprint races going on. It's like how could you get everyone, all the promoters to schedule it all in one place all at one time? That would be crazy. That would be like God's gift to race fans, where you could go like get like a week pass and just go to everything. As someone who works in events planning for a large event nationally, that is what I aspire to see big national events turn into. Some who try. There's an event happening the beginning of next month that is going to try to do something like that, but we'll see what happens. Coming off the heels of Memorial Day weekend, Coke 6 weekend, Indy 500 weekend. We just had F1 at Imola. That was, I know Dom, if you're still here, what a recovery for Ferrari. I tried to keep up a little bit. I didn't watch, but I tried to keep up. I know that they qualified not where they should have, and it was a little disappointing. Kimi Antonelli also didn't qualify where he needed to, but the Ferraris finished, I think it was like P4, P6, something like that. Finished P4, P6 at Imola. Verstappen wins again. So, we're going to talk a little bit about Verstappen with Buddy in the interview we're going to cover off on here in the next 15-ish minutes. We'll start that at 9 o'clock, and then I'll probably pop back in to do the Wordle with y'all after that, live and alive. And then you got to let me know too. What do we think about these interviews? Do we prefer Sal sitting up here and spouting off for 2 hours, or do we like this interview format after we try it today? I'm really, I'm thinking about, this is something I have to, I have to figure this out on my own, but I like to share with the community too, because it's your show. Brennan, thanks for coming out. I appreciate you, man. Hopefully you have a blessed day. It's your show to enjoy. Thinking about kind of turning into a little bit of a variety show in the morning. I don't know. Have different segments set up, like segment the show a little bit differently and have it be a little bit more rigid and structured, and the interviews can maybe be a part of that. So this is the first one of the day, first one that we're going to try. The first one is today. But yeah, just some thoughts rattling around in my brain. It takes some prep to do this. So I have other things in my life that command a lot of time and attention from me, and I only continue to add to it. That'll be kind of like where I leave off my little story time here before we get to the top of the hour. Sal is now running. Not running. Sal is now involved in some at-track PA announcing and calling some races at Wall Stadium Speedway. I went out on Saturday night. I had been going to Wall Stadium for a long time, since I was a kid, to enjoy the races with my family and with friends. And we had, everybody's got a friend who's got a car that raced, along the way somewhere. And if you're involved in the sport as a fan and whatever. But, I reached out to them a few times in the past to kind of be involved. That track has been talked about in terms of, what's its future? What'll it look like? Will it be there? So, we talk a lot about saving racetracks and being a part of the solution. And that was kind of the motivation for me, was to get out there and be a part of the solution, to try to help keep a place that I love open and continuing to provide great racing to fans. And I tell you what, it was opening night, 75th year in operation, the track. And they had a great event there. Just about sold out for what I believe they typically expect. Just even the legends, like the legends were great. They run legends, they run factory stock, they run in no particular order, because I'm going to get the order wrong. I have the paper with me, but it's not in front of me. They ran legends, factory stocks, they ran limited late models, they ran modifieds, they ran sportsman modifieds, they ran fast fours, which are like those stock 4-cylinder cars. They ran all kinds of things, and it was such a fun experience to be a part of up in the booth. They let me call the limited late model race and do some victory lane interviews. So I'm excited to kind of continue that. I don't know how much of that you guys will all see in person. They don't do like a live broadcast or any kind of cameras in terms of social media and stuff. Maybe that's something that I can help integrate as I get rolling there a little bit. I have to chat with them today, actually, and reach out and find out what we're doing over the next few weeks. They don't race there next week in the Memorial Day weekend. But yeah, it's an exciting piece of my life that I'm enjoying doing right now on a Saturday night. Dalton Baker, thanks for the follow, first of all. Thoughts on Corey Day? I mean, I don't know a ton about Corey Day. I'll be really honest with you. I think, any driver who has the pedigree to be attracted to a team like Hendrick and be talked about the way Kyle Larson has talked about him. I hear things here and there. He seems like he's the full package as he's developing in the sport. I super curious to watch him kind of come up alongside these other superstars, this next generation of superstars, guys like Connor Zilich and so on, where maybe he can be one of those guys. So I don't have a ton of thoughts on him, but those are my thoughts. I am excited for the Coke 6, though. I think it's the best race of the year for us. It's the biggest. I think it's becoming bigger than the Daytona 500. I don't know if that's what people want to hear, but for me, I do. I think the Coke 600 is gonna become bigger than the Daytona 500 with the current iteration of the car. You've heard a lot of criticisms about the 500 and how people, doesn't mean as much as it used to. I think it makes other races mean more, where the racing is a little bit more competitive, like in Charlotte. So I'm really curious to see what happens. I was supposed to go. The checkbook, the heart says yes, the checkbook says no. But I'll be watching from home. Unless somebody wants to financially, support my trip to Charlotte in the next 5 days. We'll see. Maybe next year. There's a list of tracks I'd like to get out to over the summer and enjoy some of those. So we'll see about that. But yeah. I lost my train of thought. Coke 6-2. You've got Justin Allgaier sitting in as the backup for Kyle Larson in the event that Kyle cannot make the start of the race in Charlotte. What a mess that'll be if that goes that way for Kyle Larson. It seems like NASCAR has really set it up in a way where they don't want Larson to have to make a choice. They want him to leave in Indy to come race in Charlotte, which, I wish that it was different, that they had been a little bit more accommodating, because it's a big deal for both series to have a driver try to do both. It really brings a lot of new fans in, and you're going to have guys who are racing or guys who are watching, guys and girls watching Larson race in Indy 500, and they're going to go, oh my God, he's going to go get on a plane now and race in this other race. Let's see how he's going to do over there. And it's going to bring a lot of new eyeballs to the Cup Series, just like it did last year. But I think even more so this year, because if he can get there and get in the car and get strapped in and go, it'll mean that much more to see him start that race, because there'll be more, they'll be able to watch more versus, okay, Allgaier's out there. He's going to have to, swap out with him and see how much time he can make up. And not that Allgaier did a bad job. I think Allgaier did a great job for having never run in the Cup car before. And, we ended up being in a great position, putting that car in a great position for Larson. But last year rained, right? And he didn't even get in the car. Yeah. I think Allgaier ended up in like 13th after everything was said and done. But let me fire this interview up here. Again, support your local racetracks. This interview, again, is with Buddy Pulley. He is one of the ATYL media contributors in the Cars Tour. Me and Buddy talk about all different kinds of things. We even talked a little bit about Mexico City. A lot about the Cars Tour, a lot about maybe the industry at large and how people can get involved, and the best advice that he could give folks, just as I was giving advice when I started doing media things and really learning to enjoy what I do versus doing things just for the sake of having to do them. So I'm going to pull that up. I'll pop back in at the end of that interview in about an hour, and we'll do the Wordle. We'll chop it up maybe a little bit more, and we'll see. We'll go from there. On the first Splash and Dash interview with Buddy Pulley, ATYL Cars Tour correspondent. I don't know what other big adjectives can I use to describe. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. All right. Red light's on. The first Splash and Dash interview with Buddy Pulley, ATYL Cars Tour correspondent. I don't know. What other big adjectives can I use to describe you? Aficionado, expert,
All of which
at the track.
All of which are overstatements, for sure, for sure. But yeah, no, it's awesome to be here, Sal.
No, dude, I'm glad that you were like the first one in line to be like, hey, you're doing this thing. I want to try to, get on here and chop it up. So I'm excited that you want to do it. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, man. So, so really, like, these are going to be like super open ended, and again, like, people know these are pre-recorded, so this will be live tomorrow or tomorrow, but it's just like this supposed to be this casual thing that's just talking to each other and figuring out, like, getting the perspective of people and their journey through like the racing world. Now I see where you are now and you're doing all this stuff for ATYL, but you are like, you and I are a couple of the more senior statesmen of the ATYL group. I didn't realize
we're old.
There was a bunch of youngins behind us, children. Some of them are really young that are coming up, and I'm 30 and I'm sitting here and I'm like looking at Big Duke like he's my next closest person here. And then, you and I were talking one night and I was like, all right, cool. So we get a little closer to each other. But now, you've been around a long time doing this stuff and going 150 races this weekend.
My 250th NASCAR National Series race was this past weekend. The All-Star race started back. I was 5 years old in 2002, going to Charlotte at a Busch race, and now here we are at the damn All-Star race, doing media. I was told that I have not I've not technically hit 250 because I've been to quite a few clashes and All-Star races. And I was like, all right, we're keeping the party rolling then. Like,
we'll get to 250.
Yeah, that's right.
You're not hurting me. I just get to go to more events now.
Exactly. But yeah.
So yeah, a ton of events. I mean, how did you get into being a fan of the sport and then ultimately like building your way into where you are now?
So my mom actually has been watching NASCAR for the better part of 40 years. And so it basically started her and I think an old boyfriend or maybe her first husband or something, I don't know, watched it, and they hated Dale Earnhardt. And so she was like, definitely pulling for Dale Earnhardt. Turned out pretty good, back in the late 80s. Good
track to be on.
Yeah, great track to be on. So I was just born into it, man. I was born into an Earnhardt household through and through. And I mean, ever since I can remember, I've had, the 164 cars playing cars on the floor, just doing the damn thing, man. I mean, my first memories, I think my first memory ever is getting a Dale Earnhardt car on Christmas in like 1999 or something. So ever since then, I mean, I've been obsessed with the sport, and it's been, we all have that thing where, very like obsessed with, well, no, maybe not everybody has that thing, but
everybody's got that thing about something. I feel like,
I mean, it's one of those things. I feel like it's almost hurt like my social experience in a way. No, I'm serious. Like growing up, because it's like I didn't get into music or anything until I was like 21 years old. I didn't care about anything but racing. Right.
Yeah.
And so, it was probably 2021, fall 2021. I had just actually gotten out of I was breaking news. I was engaged before, and that did not work out clearly. And I was like, well, I need something to fill the void. And so what every, white guy does, they start a podcast. So me and my best friend Seth started a podcast called Big Motor Small Blade. It's still running. Well, the channel's still up and going. Steph's still putting in the Lord's work over there. But we started that back in the fall of 2021 and carried that through, built it up to about 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. And then we expanded to Cars Tour and a little bit of IndyCar stuff, different, tried to expand into different motorsports outlets. And that's kind of how Taylor found me. We had a Cars Tour show and she was like, I like what you're doing. And I was like, thanks. She's like, you want to come do it over here? And I was like, you sure? Like, I will
listen to this show. Are you sure you want that?
Like, I mean, really, I will. But, yeah, that's a crash course into how Buddy Pulley's lived his life.
No, that's dope, dude. Because I enjoy watching. Like, you're like in the area.
Yes.
Where I see you go to all these events, and it's like I get to live vicariously. I get to live Buddy's experience this weekend as someone, especially who's from the Northeast, where it's like, oh yeah, you're coming to Charlotte this week. Like, no, it's a 9.5-hour car ride for me. I will not be there. So it's cool to see you get involved and get locked into all these different things and have the opportunities. Like we were talking just before, like North Wilkesboro this weekend. You look like you were busier than a one-arm wallpaper hanger running around. Cars Tour modifieds were going on, heat races, open races, cup races, and then you got the proof to do it all. So it's like, what was that whole experience like for you this weekend even?
Man, so my first NASCAR race that I've ever covered. I've pretty much only covered asphalt late model racing. It's not getting confused with dirt late models. We don't talk about that. No, I'm kidding. That's a dig at my buddy Chuck. He loves dirt late models, and we give him crap for it. So this was my first NASCAR race that I've ever covered. Totally different than Cars Tour. Absolutely, like just totally. It felt like I'm trying to think of a good analogy. It felt like public school and then private school, essentially. Like that's what I would compare it to, right? If it went from running through the halls to like now you're having to wear a uniform if your tie's not perfectly centered on your shirt and it's not right there at the pin of your belt, you're getting in trouble.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, it was you I don't know what analogy you used, but it was funny as hell. I compared it to running around with your chicken with your head cut off. But
yeah, dude,
I felt like I got it by the end of it. We'll be all right. Well, I'm ready for round 2.
I feel like that's the only way in like the motorsport space people
100%.
You get like this rough initiation into the world where you show up and you're like, okay, here's your chance to do this. Now you like go goodbye.
Yeah,
we'll see you, and then we expect it to be good by the end. I feel like that's like a common thread in racing in general, where it's like, okay, even if you're in the car, like, okay, good, you're out there. Okay, we'll see you at the front later.
Yeah.
Go earn your stripes out there.
It's trial by fire. 100%. And I was on fire the entire weekend. I was 3rd-degree burns all over. Like, yeah, I mean, it was just it was an amazing experience. Don't get me wrong. It was just one of those things because it's like everybody's a NASCAR. Everybody that works in the industry is a fan. Or most people started out as a fan first, right? And so there's still that kind of like giddiness of like, oh man, there's such and such, and there's such and such, and then it's like, oh, I gotta act best behavior here. Yeah, exactly. But Ty, walking around. Yeah, someone called me a Walmart brand Jordan Bianchi. Because I had a Pete,
so great
Pete button down. Like I was like, all right, cool. I mean, he's one of the best in the game. Let's do it. Yeah.
He's at the top of the game too. That's a good comparison.
Yeah,
I wish I was. I wish people would say Walmart Jordan Bianchi. That's a good one.
Yeah, no. Like I said, just a fun time, dude. It was an amazing experience, and I am thankful for the fact that I felt like I learned something. It was obviously we had the Car Store, which I'm familiar with, trucks, modifieds, which that might as well be on the other side of the world, as far as I can say. I don't know nothing about modifieds.
Was that your first modified experience?
My second. I went the Smart Tour race. Preluded the Car Store Championship race at Wilkesboro last year. So yeah.
Well, modified racing is a whole. We do modified racing every week up here. It is a whole different beast of a type of racing series, and people from the outside look at it and they're like, oh, the Car Store and late models and all these different things that we're talking about. And it's like every one of them is so uniquely its own thing with its own individual challenges that people have to overcome to be successful in it. It's that's what makes it so much fun. But Cars Tour stuff, dude.
Yeah.
Now, I don't see a lot of people running around on the internet. There's more content creators talking about racing now than ever before. A lot of people love F1. A lot of people love the Cup Series. You know, and that's part of like what we're all doing is talking about other things.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know, serving these series that are a little underserved, that are still producing incredible racing. Like, I'll be honest with you, I paid attention to the Cars Tour for 5 minutes last season. And then now, like that, I've had experiences with you with doing things through Above the Yellow Line. It's like, all right, cool. I'm going to flip the Cars Tour race on, or I'm going to watch the highlights on YouTube. And it's wild to watch. It reminds me a lot of what we have up here is like limited late models, and they never really fill a field because people don't really run them. Yeah, because everybody down south, I guess, runs the bigger like stock modify or
late model stocks,
like late model stocks, and then there's another division too, right?
Yeah, pro late models. Yeah,
pro late models, and that's like the little baby underneath or the big baby above.
No, it's the I guess. What would you equate to like the Xfinity series of like Cars Tour essentially?
Okay. Yeah. All right, cool. So like, I mean, that's something I feel like people they're not like me. I'm not in tune with it, and I'm in tune with a lot. And it's like, I don't know. There's something to be said about like the Cars Tour in general and that type of racing. So like, what got you hooked onto that over everything else? Where it's like, oh, I like racing, but I really love this.
Yeah. It really started, really, it's kind of funny that it all kind of circled back around to this. It started at the Wilkesboro Revival when Junior ran the Sundrop car the first time. That was my first Cars Tour race. And I guess technically it started way back in the day. I used to go to a track called Southern National Motorsports Park in Lucama, North Carolina. Denny Hamlin raced there a lot before he, made it to Cup, and I actually watched him win a race there back in the day. After he made it to Cup, he came back. So I used to watch Junior's late models run there, and then stepped away. That was just down the road, so I went there. I'm from Raleigh, but then hadn't really paid much attention to the late models, and then Junior runs that Sundrop car, and I'm like, kind of re-sparked my interest in it because obviously Junior has his team there. I think Butterbean won that night. So I was like, interesting. My mom latched on to someone that she liked, and I go to most of the races with mom if I'm not, working them. So I really started kind of paying attention to it again. And then one of my good friends, Chase Folsom, but his name's Chuck. Don't let him tell you it's Chase. We call him Chuck. He is the lead reporter for another outlet that I'm not going to say. So
no free ads, Chuck,
no free ads. Yeah, so he came onto our podcast, Big Motor Small Blade, when I was doing that, and he was talking about the Cars Tour, and I was like, I'm a couple hours from most of these races. I'm gonna go to a couple with you next year, and I fell in love because it's the best stock car racing going on right now, essentially. Yeah. I think all of us have some frustrations with the next gen car. We'll put it nice.
About the frustrations. We can crack that egg.
All right, cool. The car sucks.
There's no. I'm not going to tell you to tailor your opinions.
All right, cool. Yeah, car bad. Next gen
car's not good.
Yeah, it's there's a lot to be desired. So I was like, man, I need to. It was pissing me off. It was just pissing me off, and I needed to find something that I really loved again. And I fell back in love with late models, and I started learning some of the drivers and some of the stories behind them, and I was like, why is this not talked about more? Especially Harvick Jr., Burton, Marks, they all own the series, right? Yeah. And so I saw an opportunity. I'm like, I figured people will start paying attention to it more. Might as well, seize the opportunity and, cover something I also love very much.
Yeah, that's always something about the Cars Tour that it kind of flies under the radar for the prestigious ownership group that it has. And then Ryan Newman goes back down and runs some of those races. And, there's some Landon Huffman is somebody that I enjoy watch racing, and Butterbean. And these are guys that are in the mix. Yeah. That are coming through in this new development path. Some of them are car store guys.
Yep.
They're going to always run car store. Some of them are running car store and they're getting opportunities to do other things too, like Connor Hall and did Zilich run in the car store too? And
yeah, he won Hickory last year. I mean,
Yeah.
Josh Berry, car store guy.
yeah, I feel like he's
Lane Riggs.
the crown jewel example
Yeah, absolutely.
of what you can do in terms of from one place to another in the shortest amount of time. Is guy was running car store and now he's winning in the Cup Series. That's quite a transformation. But I mean, do you think car store? There's been a lot of talk this week, like in media, about like development systems, and I know Harvick had somebody on his show that he was talking to them about, the European development system, and then they were talking about the American development system and how can these guys get an edge and be the best rounded. And do you think car store is becoming like that new outlet for guys to really cut their teeth and get good experience versus like going to the trucks or going to the Xfinity series? Because it's not a secret, right? And I don't gatekeep, in terms of what I tell my audience, where there's obviously a lot of money that gets thrown around in these series, and that determines a tremendous amount in terms of who is going to be in what seat doing what. And I feel like the Cars Tour might be like, it's not free, but like it's a better equalizing opportunity for guys who want to like stick their foot in the door and try to do the damn thing. And I don't know if you've gotten that feeling as well as you've covered it and gone to races and stuff.
So, the car store is a very good mix right now. It's still expensive. Racing's expensive in general. We all know that, right?
Yeah, everywhere.
But, you have, the KHIs with Landon Lewis right now. You have Connor Hall racing Dale Jr.'s car, and Carson Quapple's little brother, Caden, is running the other junior car from time to time. But you also have guys like a Ryan Millington, who it's basically just him and his dad putting this stuff together. And I think he finished 3rd or 4th in the championship last year. And, he's consistently one of the fastest cars. God, it needs to get whatever the opposite of a golden horseshoe stuck up his rear end. He needs whatever the opposite of that, that's what he has right now. He's doing terrible. Not for a lack of trying. They're fast every week and just something always happens. I feel horrible for him. But anyway, it's a good mix of guys like that, I said the other night when to some people after the late model stock race at Wilkesboro, or the car store race, I was like, what we needed to have happen in this was either a KHI car win or a junior motorsports car win, because people are going to remember that. They're going to remember, a Kevin Harvick car won or a Dale Jr. car won. I want to follow them. I like Kevin Harvick. I like Dale Jr., whatever. Or we needed someone like a Ryan Millington to win, who, he's just grinding it out, just putting in, his heart and soul into this race car. And, so getting off on a tangent here, but as far as
tangents are good. We welcome tangents.
But as far as like where it fits in the feeder system, I think it's a whole lot better racing experience than ARCA.
Yeah, oh man.
I mean, you look at Butterbean Queen. Hell of a race car driver. Absolutely hell of a race car driver. He's dominating ARCA right now.
Yeah.
I mean, he won Daytona his first time out. He just won Kansas. Yeah. It was a hard fought battle in the car store last year. He won the championship, but it wasn't easy. It's some of the toughest competition. I've told people, a lot of people, I was like, just wait, this catches fire. It's already better than ARCA.
That's the kind of thing I feel. I mean, especially that it's on TV. Like, I'll tell you what, I wouldn't hate. And I know there's logistics and there's all kinds of deals that get done and whatever. But in this imaginary hypothetical, I wouldn't hate to see a Friday night race or even a Thursday night race nearby to a Cup race. I'll watch that. And then I'll watch the trucks or I'd rather watch that over ARCA, unless Cletus is running, just because I like YouTube. That's about the only allegiance I have to the ARCA series right now. But like, I would love to see that become a regular staple of a race weekend. I mean, for me, it revolves around the Cup Series because that's like, I feel like everybody watches the Cup Series to some extent. Yeah. But to have it be like an integrated part of the ecosystem like it was this weekend at North Wilkesboro, to me, like it makes so much sense to try to do and really give that exposure to like people like me. Like, I don't, you're talking about people that I never heard about. And it's like, I want to know more. Like, this seems like it's dope. I want to, we all love racing. That's like at the end of the day. I don't, they could be out there. There could be 30 monkeys on scooters out there. You put it on TV, I'll watch it. So, I mean, it's something that I feel like is coming up the right way, and especially with those big names that are in the ownership side of it, and they have the teams, and there's a lot of I don't know what the right word for it is. I guess there's like there's a lot of like recognition there between the Harvicks and the Earnhardts of the Cup Series days to this new thing that they're all throwing their hats in to try and do. So, I mean, have you ever gotten in one of these things?
Hell no.
Have you gone that far with it?
No.
No.
Hell no.
Okay.
They don't know. Like I said, they ain't cheap. Nobody trusts me to get behind the wheel of one of them damn things. Like, I mean, look, man, I drive my Volkswagen Jetta, and I drive it fast every now and then. That's about it. That's about the extent of my racing.
Merging onto the highway once in a while. That's
oh yeah, I'm like, all right, this is what they feel like, but hell no, absolutely not. That'd be awesome. I have a good buddy of mine whose dad used to race at that track, Southern National, and we've kind of like elbowed him a little bit, like, hey man, you wanna? His father-in-law, I was like, hey bro, like you wanna get another late model and let us just toy around? I'm like, he's like, nah, I'm not letting you just wreck a
spend all my money.
$100,000 car. Yeah, no, but yeah, it's just to kind of finish up the where it lands. I mean, there's a reason why you have guys like Ryan Newman come and run it. Why you see like Toyota purposely put some of their drivers in it. Like Jade Avedissian is in the pro late model division right now. You have a driver like Tristan McKee who's in the Spire program, who they purposely put them in the car store because it's some of the toughest competition out there. Yeah. And it's gonna teach them racecraft. And you have the veterans of the series that guys like maybe a Landon Huffman or somebody like that's has been doing this late model thing for a long time. That's not going to let them BS around. You're not going to race like a monkey with his head cut off. You're going to have to learn racecraft and learn respect.
I feel like that's something that's pretty talked about, like the racing with respect stuff these days. There seems to be a need for it. I mean, it's not a secret that, Mark Martin pops off on Twitter once in a while, and it's like, hey, these guys got to figure it out. Usually there's a handful of names that
Gucci Mane and respect. That's all Mark Martin talks about.
Bro, what a goat.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like, it's something that people are looking to see developed at that level, because it seems like it skipped a generation. As new drivers have kind of come up into the mix in the Xfinity and the Cup Series and the Truck Series and everywhere, kind of really. Yeah. So it's everybody likes a good show, but then there's the reality of what that means for you wreck somebody out of a race. What does that mean, really?
Exactly.
So it seems like it's like this not new, but it seems like it's this emerging development platform, which I'm here for it. I want to see more of it. Do you think they'll do more FS1 stuff as time goes on?
You can always hope. I think probably the most likely thing is next year they'll do the Wilkesboro race again. But I'm sure a lot of guys are talking about like even like 2 to 3 races a year. Like that'd be huge for them. And you have like shows like Florence Motor Speedway. It's like 30 minutes from Darlington. They run the Friday before the Southern 500. You have the Wilkesboro Championship race. That would be a perfect thing to maybe put on FS1 or something. So I mean, it can't be understated how huge it is for the series. There's a driver, Buddy Alves Jr. Shout out to another buddy. He's another real buddy too. Where he didn't have a sponsor, and so he just put all his companies on the side of the car, and it's national television,
sure.
National TV.
You might as well take advantage of the opportunity,
exactly,
if you're a business owner.
Exactly. So, I mean, I really hope so, because a lot of these guys deserve it, and it's getting more recognition. So, I mean, eventually, I think it's going to come to a point where maybe it's not ARCA where it's on FS1 the whole season, but it's going to have its place.
Yeah, maybe some of the capstone events. I mean, they put bowling on FS1 for God's sake. So it's like, I feel like there's definitely, I'd rather watch a a car store race before something else than get cut off by, no disrespect to the bowlers in the
Coming after you, dude.
audience, but I'd rather watch a car store race than a bowling championship before I get settled in for a race weekend. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think true statement. I mean, car store way better than bowling. if you take nothing, take nothing away from this interview today, just know car store way better than bowling.
Way better.
Yeah.
Give them that feedback next time you talk to them over there at the racetrack. Let them know. Let them know they've stepped up above bowling.
Yeah, absolutely. First thing I'm saying when I get to Langley in a couple weeks, you guys can confirm. Way better.
The media thinks you're better than bowling. Yes. Don't worry.
Yeah.
So you talk about going to Langley. What do you got coming up for the rest of the year? Wilkesboro behind you now.
Yeah. So I'll go to Langley here in a couple weeks. Week after it's 600. Yes, week after it's 600.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Tentative. May go to Mexico. May go to Dominion. I don't know.
Mexico.
Yeah. Well. So, like I said, we're all fans, right? My mother.
Yeah, there's got to be a story there.
My mother was an Earnhardt fan for, like I said, ever since she started watching racing. Was a Dale Jr. fan. Well, she also is a Volkswagen Beetle. She's had Volkswagen Beetles, a lot of her life, right?
Okay.
So, Junior gets his concussion in 2016. So mom's like, well, this isn't fun. My mom's not the type who has a couple different drivers that she likes. She likes one driver, right?
Loyalty.
Yeah.
Ride or die.
And so she was like, I don't know what to do. And I was like, hey, I noticed there's this kid, Daniel Suarez, who, my mother went on vacation to Monterrey, Mexico when she was 5 years old, back in like 1960. Rode donkeys up a mountain or something. I don't know. And I was like, he's from Monterey. He works on Volkswagens. Like, pay attention to him. So she did, and lo and behold, maybe a couple weeks later, maybe she started paying attention before Junior got the concussion. But he won Michigan, and that's been her guy. That is Junior retired, and that's her guy. Junior and Suarez raced the car store race at Wilkesboro a couple years ago. Dale Jr. who to her. So so when they announced they were going to Mexico for the cup race, that was obviously circled for us to go to. But anyway,
that would be sick to get down to Mexico and do that.
I've never been outside the country, so we're about to have
neither have I. Yeah. So you again, like living vicariously through your content, if you do choose to go down there, would be crazy, because that's certainly not one that I had on my bingo card for myself. And I don't know too many people in the circles I run in that are like, unless they work at a pretty high level in the industry, that are like, yeah, I'll see you in Mexico. Like, oh, all right.
Hey, I'll be real with you, and then we'll get back to the question. Looking at how much this trip is going to cost, almost cheaper than when I went to Phoenix a couple of years ago. So
really?
Yeah. I mean,
that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think. I don't know what the peso to dollar, thing is, but it's
conversion rate. You're probably gonna save a little bit, but then like flying down there.
Flying's not even. It's about the same. But anyway,
that's cool.
Forgot what the original question was. Oh, what do I have the rest of the year? Every Cars Tour race, pending Dominion for the rest of the year. A couple of the bigger late model races like the South Carolina 400. I'll go to the Martinsville 300, the Snowball Derby, things like that. Dip my toe in the super late model world. A couple other NASCAR races, probably just as a fan. But I mean, anything, like I said, I live in Raleigh. I got 15
center of the universe,
15
man.
tracks within a couple hours.
Yeah.
So
you guys are the center of the universe down there.
Yeah.
It's like, like you got to share, y'all got to share some of the love up here and give us I'll die on the hill that Dover should have 2 dates, but I'm not going to complain.
I'll give you that. I went to Dover for the first time last year. I don't know, but it was a great racetrack.
Well, so the thing with Dover is that before last year, I've been going to Dover since like 2009. Like my first race was the race that Joey Logano was in the 20 car for Joe Gibbs, and he flipped like 7 times in turns 3 and 4. I was sitting at the other side in turn 2 watching just a plume of smoke, and I was like, Dad, did that guy die? Like it was scary looking, in front of you. That was my first race. But ever since then I've been going, like, every year the pilgrimage happens. And last year was the first time though in about 5 years that it didn't rain out.
Yeah.
Much to the probably the chagrin of Martin Truex Jr., who loved winning there on Mondays
Yeah.
and had a good car there last year. But I have never seen so many people at Dover as I did last year.
Yeah.
I feel like the combined like buildup of the years in a row, multiple years in a row, that it got rained out on the Sunday, and then plus the fact that it was only one date last year, it was like, okay, the weather's nice. Once people knew the weather was going to be nice, everybody and their mother was standing in line waiting for a ticket to get into that place.
Yeah, it was. I had a great time at Dover last year. It's definitely. I never thought it was one of those tracks that like, all right, I want to go see it once. I want to see Miles. You know, give him dap him up or whatever. And then I went and I was like, it's a cool freaking track. Like it's a cool place. And there's something to that one date thing. I wasn't bought in with it, but like people show up.
It works. It works because even people I knew, like from my town here, like like Sal likes NASCAR, and then like, okay, the Dover comes around, and then people start texting you that I haven't heard from in like a year or two. Hey man, what do you think about that? If I like take my kids or I take my family, this seems cool. I guess the marketing's working because people are reaching out. If people are reaching out to me to give my opinion, I mean, I don't know if I'm the best ambassador for anybody, but
you'd be surprised at who people go to for things. I got a lot of people coming to me, and I'm like.
It's like they think you got the answer as long as you pretend you do, but
as well.
I just gotta go.
Sir,
get up
can I have some more me? Like, come on.
We just got underway with some local stuff, so we're getting underway with some local series stuff. This weekend was opening weekend for stuff up by me near the house, and I'm hoping to get out to some. And you were talking about dirt and some dirt late model stuff. You ever dip your toe in that world?
I've been to a couple world finals at Charlotte. Okay. I think I went to the Talladega dirt track, and I went to one of the Bristol dirt races that they had for the World of Outlaws. I went to Cup race too, but I love sprint cars. That's something that I really want to. I guess we'll break some news. Eventually on tour, I would like it to expand to more than just late model racing. I would like to, if any businesses are out there and want to sponsor a YouTube show, I'm gladly taking calls. If you guys want to send me to, wherever next year, I'm open to really anything. I'm trying to expand my racing palette and, in turn help others expand theirs. So I love sprint cars, man. Sprint cars are some of the baddest machinery that is out there right now. So dirt late model racing, no comment. I'm good.
But the sprint cars you're here for.
Yeah, absolutely.
My first in-person experience with sprint cars was at Bridgeport when High Limits came, and I got to see that once up close. And then every year since then, I've talked about going to the Chili Bowl, and like I went from zero to wanting to go to the moon.
Yes,
I feel like that's
absolutely.
That's a pretty broad.
It's a common things. It's a common leap for us racing fans. I think
I want to do it all right now.
Yeah,
like. Yeah, but it seems like they're so, like, you talk about too, like driver skill level. I think when I saw Travis Pastrana run that sprint car not too long ago, and he was like, hey, this is the scariest thing I've ever driven.
Yeah.
And then you go back and you look at all the stuff that Travis Pastrana has driven. Like, if this man tells me this is a scary thing to drive, those dudes who drive him every week.
Yeah.
That's got to be crazy.
There is some sort of mental block as far as like there is no fear at all. Like I don't know what your fears are in lifestyle. I don't have many, But I think I would unlock a few if you put me behind the wheel of a sprint car.
Yeah, something about the idea of like, because I've seen like the crashes, and you don't just crash, like it doesn't just like nose over.
No.
It's violent.
Yes.
Like you are like in a literally, it looks like you putting somebody inside of a blender.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
you ever get in a dryer as a kid and like
That-
you have a sibling, they shut the door, turn it on for a second? Yeah, I mean
that's what it seems like it is. And it's like people are breaking their backs and fracturing their spines and like all kinds of crazy things that could happen. I mean, it can happen anywhere in any race series. But it's like these guys are like, it feels like the PBR of racing, like the bull riders of racing, not PBR like the beer.
I was about to say,
which I never would.
I
I
mean,
mean,
talk about mental block is fear. You get some PBRs in me.
that wipes out all the mental
I
blocks
make
and
all
fears.
sorts of crappy beer, crappy decisions. It goes hand in hand.
It's perfect. Yeah. It's the best.
Yeah.
You know, no free ads, but PBR is the best race day beer. But yeah, dude, I mean, the dirt racing stuff is something that like I've always tried to get interested in. So it's cool to see other people are like, you're taking it to another level where maybe you're talking about doing some extra things in the future, without spoiling the whole pot.
Yeah, it's anybody wants to come aboard, we're going to the moon. Or at least that's what I'm going to tell you.
Yeah. Whatever it takes to get you to get me to the event.
Exactly. Get me to Chili Bowl, Knoxville. Get me to Bathurst next year. Supercars, that's another good one, dude. Supercars, that's another.
I only know about that since SVG come over, and seeing some of those guys though. There's somebody in IndyCar too that come over
McLaughlin.
from there. McLaughlin came from there. Like I started following on Instagram. Like all my media is like from the internet, which is probably super unhealthy, but it's fun. But like getting the clips of these guys, these last lap battles that they have
insane.
Supercars, like the way they like, it's unbelievable how they do the things they do.
Dude, it's insane to me. I was watching one a couple weeks ago. They were racing. I can't remember exactly where they were racing. Wherever F1 races, in Australia. Right?
It's in Melbourne somewhere, I think.
And they were like the feeder series to like F3 supercars were. And I was appalled. I was like, these, not only is it going to put on way better racing, but I'd put SVG or Scott McLaughlin in an F1 car tomorrow and they'd give Max all he can handle. Like, I mean, these are some badass race car drivers down there.
Yeah, man.
And it is badass racing.
I love watching when they did Bathurst one year, and I remember watching a clip of a video of something, and the dude like outbreaks somebody going into the corner, and I mean inches from it being if this works, I look like a genius. If it doesn't work, not only do I wreck my own car, but I wreck about 15 cars behind me in this little tight passing zone through this little street course with Jersey barriers up on. And they don't, with no hesitation, just
you don't talk about mental block as far as fear goes. Like, I mean, SVG, I mean, he in my opinion is up there with Larson. He's up there with Larson as far as some of the greatest race car drivers in the world. I firmly believe Kyle Larson's the greatest in the world. Max doesn't hold a candle to him, in my opinion.
Wow. We had this conversation last week on the live too. So this is good stuff.
Absolutely not. No. Put Max in a cup car, put him in a sprint car, put him in he's not holding a candle to Larson. You know who can hold a candle to Larson in a cup car, a sprint car, and even if Larson wants to go down to wherever he was talking about, Adelaide, and run a supercar, SVG.
Okay.
He's a badass race car driver. And there's a couple more down there that are just as badass as him. Scott McLaughlin, look up Lap of the Gods. You want to see a damn race car driver. Scott McLaughlin, Lap of the Gods.
I don't know anything about. That sounds wild. I mean, I don't know much about it, but it's one of those series, one of those things where it's like there's so many series. It's one of those series that I feel like flies under the radar. I mean, you think SVG's got a couple more years in the Cup Series in him? You think he's got a little more juice left? Because a lot of people, when we talk about Trackhouse, and not to like really go off on a tangent, but since you mentioned him, like my fondest SVG memory is beating Austin Hill
Oh,
That's one of my my top one. But like, yeah, do you think SVG is going to get that chance to really develop at his stage of his career to like really be dominant in the cups on the cup side, or
if
is Trackhouse cooked? Is the answer, is the question I get in the chat a lot.
if Justin Marks doesn't let him develop, or if he goes elsewhere, SVG goes elsewhere in the Cup Series, and no one hires him per se, it's a missed opportunity. I mean, dude,
Okay.
he was putting belt to ass in the. Granted, it's the open,
Yeah.
but it's proof that you put him in a good car, he'll make lap time.
He can do it.
And I mean,
Yeah.
he got the racecraft. I mean, I was at Chicago when he won in
the street course.
2023. Yeah, and dude, it was looking like the 5 lap down ARCA driver who goes 5 laps down within 6 laps, running against Kyle Larson. That's what it looked like. I mean, he's an incredible race car driver, you know? So yeah, it's put a pin in that. Yeah, it's a missed opportunity if he's not given the opportunity to make it in the Cup Series, because I think Trackhouse Ross is, I feel bad for his back because he is carrying, and Daniel too, man. They're carrying that team. I mean, it's a yeoman's work to put those cars in the top 10 right now. And you know,
I was impressed with what I saw out of Ross this weekend.
At
Wilkesboro. I miss like the villain arc that he had for a while there.
Yeah,
Ross was unreal. And I was there for it. I miss seeing that one car sneak up. The Jaws music starts playing. Everybody's got to look at their rear bumper and think, "Uh-oh, is he coming for me?"
Yeah.
Because, I mean, but he's a hell of a race car driver. But I just, it is one of those deals where right now they are kind of pulling themselves up by their bootstraps to get themselves up in the top 10. It's not reminiscent of a couple of years ago when they were running a little more competitively for whatever reason.
You don't know what you don't know, and I think that's a lot of the case for back in 2022. Yeah, I mean, Ross is one of those guys though that like we need him to do good because he is that dynamic, driver and that polarizing driver that we need to be in the top level of the Cup Series or be at the top level of NASCAR. I mean, I was listening to the driver intros, right? Ross had some of the maybe top 3-4 loudest reaction out of anybody, up there with Elliott, Kyle Busch. By the way, Kyle Larson's the most popular driver too. Get that out.
Yeah.
There, too. It's not even
Chase Elliott only gets the votes. He's the most voted for driver, but he's not the most popular.
Chase Elliott got the same reaction as far as boos to cheer ratio as Kyle Busch. I'll put it like that. I swear, dude. I swear. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But
I don't know. Ross also to me is like the last blue collar driver.
Yeah.
At least that's how he's like marketed. And I feel like that's very attractive to the audience that, we have at the Cup level, where I feel like it's almost Earnhardt-esque, where this is a guy who comes from a family who works with their hands. They raced on the weekends and on Saturday nights, and he's a 7th generation watermelon farmer or something.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is like a real like dude. He's got the Anheuser-Busch sponsor. It gives me like vibes like Dale when he had the Bud sponsor.
Oh, yeah.
Like it makes too much sense. So I feel like that's something that really draws people to him, and especially they're cooking on his car schemes this year.
Dude,
that thing looked fine on track.
You mentioned the Busch sponsorship. Literally yesterday, we got done with our media availability with Ross. And there's like a group of 20, 30 people in the grandstands just yelling at Ross the whole time. And they started a chant. They go, Busch Light, Busch Light, Busch Light. I was like, we are so back. Like, hell yeah.
Nature is healing.
Yeah.
Everyone's chanting Busch Light from the stands.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. But no, you hit the nail on the head with that one though. I was not buying into the Ross hype, but he's
I miss it. I miss the Ross hype. Ever since Mr. H clipped his wings and told him to cool it off, I was like, maybe we shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. No, we shouldn't.
But I mean, so obviously I see a lot of Kevin Harvick stuff behind you. I was going to ask you who your favorite driver was. But I think I know the answer already. What is it? Every win? You've told me this. Every win
Yes, I have
in behind glass, right?
Yeah, every win in here, and then behind the cameras, probably another 100 Harvick diecast. Yeah, he was good, man. I thought I was, I paid a little attention to him. He was, if I had to pick a guy, Harvick could be the guy. I paid attention to on the weekends. Yeah.
Have you so like you you talk about like, okay, now you're on the media side of it and you have to like put that shirt tucked in, tie that tie up.
Yeah.
Have you had the chance in a professional capacity to meet the man and do anything yet, or is it still something you're looking kind of on the horizon for as you're going to all these races and he's in the broadcast booth?
I saw him this week. I have not had the chance to talk to him. I saw him this weekend. I was going to approach him. Then Piper runs up. I'm like, I'm not doing that. But no, it is funny. Keelan, obviously, he races pro late models in the car store right now, and he races that full time. And the first couple times I saw Keelan, I was like, whoa, you're Kevin Harvick's kid. But now it's just like, okay, yeah. No, I mean, it's you get giddy. It's still, you still look, you still see Harvick walking around, or you see Dale Jr. walking around, you're like, whoa, that's who that is. But you gotta lock in, man. You gotta lock in, bro.
Lock in.
Yeah.
Don't get distracted.
Yeah, no, but the day I get to interview Kevin Harvick, that'll be cool. That'll be a great day. Yeah, I'll have to walk behind it like a holler, or like go in the bathroom and cry a little bit.
It'll be a full circle moment.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
I still get that way. Like I'm not like doing media work like you are doing at track. So it's less likely for me to run into these people that I have, looked up to. I don't have 100 diecasts, but there's been a handful of drivers that I have not been able to keep the buttoned, where it's like, I've watched you on TV for 20 years.
Yeah.
Like you might not think it was a big deal, but it was a big deal. Like, yeah. and I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna tell you about it now. You just, I don't know. To me, it's like to make that connection after all that time invested is a big deal.
It is.
That's cool.
Dale Jr. was a guy I got to interview him at Cordeal this year, and it was one of those moments where I turned the camera on. We're in the scrum, and I'm looking through the camera, and I was like, "That's Dale Earnhardt Jr. right there, talking to my camera. Wow, that's crazy." And then he's talking about they didn't have a good night there in Cordeal, and then I was like, "Oh, lock back in." It's one of those.
Yeah.
You give yourself. You got to enjoy it. You got to appreciate what you're doing, because it keeps you from it turning into a job.
It's more fun. It's like I had the opportunity to do the booth this week at a local track by me, and by the time I left there, it was 1:30 in the morning. I did this much, and they let me do one race by myself toward the end of the night, and then I ran down to Victory Lane and I did the interview for the winner. And after I got done with that, I got in the car. It's 1:00 in the morning, and I'm like, I would rather do this than ever go to work again. Like, if I could this is way better than a job.
Yeah, would I'd rather get my head chopped off for $1 million. Yeah, Sal, of course.
Yeah. I'm like, damn, like, this is like, did you ever have that like come to Jesus moment where you were at an event and you were like, how do I turn this from fandom into professional? Like, how do I make money doing this and get involved? Because I had that moment, and I wonder if other people, it's just a light bulb that goes on someday.
That's a moment I live every time I'm at the racetrack. That is like, I kind of had an epiphany a couple weeks ago at the first car store race of the year, and I was sitting there, the race is going on, I'm sitting on the wall. Next to me is Carson Elledge, who runs the whole shebang, does a great job doing it. And then James Pike, the Flow Racing pit reporter, one of the best pit reporters in the game right now. And I'm sitting there, they're on either side of me, and I'm like, I'm in the right place.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things. It's like, yeah, if the day I stop having a little bit of imposter syndrome is, I think the day you stop loving it a little bit.
It's interesting you bring that up,
Yeah.
because I feel like the people who become the best never know that they are.
Yes.
Like they're always
Absolutely.
constantly doubting, you know, it could be better. It could be better. It could be better. And that's what makes them so good, even when they can't realize it sometimes.
Yeah.
But like you said, though, when you look up and you have the right people around you, that's that light switch moment where you're like, okay, whatever I did, it's working, because, you know, look to the left and look to the right. And this is where if I want to succeed, these are the people I want to try to be succeeding with.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned Landon Huffman a couple minutes ago. I mean, he's a guy, you know, I did a little B-roll thing with him, and I handed him my card. He's like, I know who you are. I watch your shit. And I was like, excuse my language. I watch your stuff. And I was like, my immediate reaction, I didn't say it, but I was like, why? But he was like, you're doing good stuff. I was like, wow.
Thanks, dude. That's crazy.
What? Really? You really mean it?
You're watching it, dude?
Yeah, it's one
That's
of the,
so
it's if you don't have that feeling, like I said, you probably should stop.
Oh, yeah.
I think that I am a firm believer too. We are in this industry for a limited time. You see a lot of guys that are in the. I'm gonna get some flack for saying this, but I'm gonna say it.
Go for it. Hit it.
There's a lot of guys in the industry, or a lot of just people in the industry that overstay their welcome, and you can tell you can tell who it is if you really pay attention. Where, you know, it becomes, you know, they become the show a little bit, or, you know, or you hear it in their voice, they've lost the passion, you know. And I think I've started to notice, I think that's just an inevitability with certain people, people that work in this industry, is that, you know, you get to a point where you've overstayed, maybe not your welcome, but your tenure, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's a natural enough life cycle. And I think for me, I see that, you know, to a degree, like in the broadcast side and the media side,
Exactly.
where people stick around for a long time and maybe they lose sight of what's important. And there's so many young people behind them that are hungry for these opportunities.
We work for one.
Right. Yeah. And people like Taylor, like you know, there's people who are, you know, doing races right now on a national level that I think Taylor could take their job any day. The right phone call.
I've talked to I don't even know if I told Taylor. I've talked to a couple of people within the industry who also share that opinion of her. So,
and it's, you know, that's how that, like you talk about, you sit on the pit wall and you look around side to side, you know, you're with the right people. That's part of like that imposter syndrome moment that I had to have when Taylor reached out to me and was like, hey, do you want to do what you're doing for like here? Like, are you sure? Have you watched what I do? Like,
you think I'm somebody else? Like,
yeah. Like, have you just like a wrong phone number kind of deal? Like, what's, you know, you one digit off?
Yeah.
But like, but there's so many hungry people, and it's, you know, I think I think it's a not a hot take, but one that people don't really talk about.
You either die here or live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
I love that we got this conversation to a Batman.
Oh, of course.
To a Harvey Dent quote. I love that.
Yeah, shout out to Dale Jr. for driving that Batman car, or else I would have never watched Batman.
Badass machine.
Oh yeah.
Badass car. Yeah. Oh man. All right. So I got two. Let me think. I got three quick ones to wrap up with, and I'm gonna steal. The third one I'm gonna steal from somebody else.
All right.
Right now in the sport, what is your? Or you know what? We're gonna add a fourth one on there too. All right. This is what happens to me. I call it the Italian goodbye, where I say that I'm gonna start wrapping things up, and 45 minutes goes by.
Oh yeah.
You know, as opposed to the Irish goodbye, that is just see ya, and they walk out the door and don't say two words. Nobody.
Yeah.
You know, but so you've been to 250 events.
Yeah.
Is there a favorite? Can you even quantify a favorite after all of that? Or is there something that sticks out in your memory that you are like, yeah, this was the dopest thing, as a fan or as someone who's worked in the industry?
So there's 4 that really stick out.
Okay,
That just came.
you're really whittling it down from yeah.
My first one, 2002 CarQuest 300 Charlotte, the Busch race in May. Jeff Green won. He won in the Rockwell Automation car. We went because Dale Jr. was running the Nilla Wafer car. Wrecked early. That sucked. And I got to meet Jeff Green after the race. Like, he was at a souvenir trailer. I will never forget that day as long as I'll have Alzheimer's and forget my kids' names, but I'll remember that. You know, I remember Jeff Green won that Busch race at Charlotte, right? There's that. There's the Chicago street race in 2023. I used to live in Chicago a long time ago when I was a little kid. And when they started talking about that race potentially happen, when they did the iRacing event there, I was like, this needs to happen. Like, this will propel the sport forward. I'm all for, I was for the dirt race. I'm for, you know, whatever we can do to prove that we have the most diverse schedule and the best race car drivers. And to go to that race and for it to be as historical as a moment as it was for the sport, with, you know, Shane Van Gisbergen winning in his first ever start. And, you know, for that race to not look like it was going to happen and then happen, it was huge. And it was very sentimental to me personally, and just a big deal for the sport. I've seen Harvick win 10 times. Those obviously, you know, go in there too. I was at Phoenix for his last race. I can't even count on my fingers and toes how many times I cried throughout that weekend. And I forgot Ross won the race. I forgot Blaney won the championship. Didn't matter to me. I didn't even see him go by me. I just had eyes on that 4 car and just bawling, trying to soak in, like, this is it. And then this past weekend at Wilkesboro, I will never forget that. I mean, it was an incredible experience, and I'm incredibly thankful for. And that, like, you know, we talk about imposter syndrome. It's just, I'm like, why? I don't feel like I've earned this. Like, I maybe people think I have, but to me, I'm just like, I'm just doing what I think is fun to do. And I'm incredibly thankful for Taylor and everybody at ATYL that, you know, helped me out throughout the weekend, and, you know, all my friends at the track that, you know, I've met through racing, just everybody, you know. So,
all right, cool.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna try to keep my list in my head. I didn't write nothing down. What is your hottest take throughout the series right now?
Hottest take throughout the series.
Give me a good social clip, buddy. Give me a really good nuclear missile kind of hot take here. I know you got some stored up. I can see it behind your eyes.
Oh man, I've always struggled with this one because, damn.
There's a lot of them.
There's a lot of.
I feel like I have more than I could ever tell.
There's a lot of hot takes. I think that. Damn. Give me the other 2 questions. Let me mull this over in my mind.
Come back to it?
Yeah.
All right. As someone who works in the industry and is on this journey, we've all gotten advice from people.
Industry.
Yeah, well, we all work, you know. We've all gotten advice from people to kind of get our kind of wheels turning in this world. What is something you would tell somebody who wants to be invested in the industry and be a part of it, so they can work for a living too?
This is more of a life advice thing. You gotta learn in life. There's no set way to do it, you know.
Yeah.
And you gotta do what you love to do, and you gotta surround yourself. You gotta be self-aware, and you gotta surround yourself with the right people, and pay attention to that, because that is a reflection of yourself. And I've worked hard to do that. You know, I'm sure everybody goes through in their 20s, definitely goes through a phase in life where they have to, you know, really figure out who they really are. And, you know, it's a big changing, you know, part or time in life. And that's what I've found the most valuable. And that's what I feel like has gotten me here.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I love
never
asking that
stop
question to
learning
people.
either.
Okay. I love that and I love asking that question because I didn't realize I wanted to get into racing like this until like I was in my late 20s.
Yeah.
And I had to sit there and say to myself, did this ship already pass?
Yeah.
And I never forget I was working a job and I got an interview. I got a call back for Stuart Haas for a media job. And that's when I didn't get the job, but I knew that when I got the call back and I knew that, okay, that was like the signal that I could do it.
Yeah.
I have enough built up that I could do this. Now, how do I go ahead and do it? So I always try to ask that question because there's somebody maybe who's out there, the one person that listens to it and goes, you know, I want to try. And I think it's important that people kind of can, because I remember tapping everybody and their mother on the shoulder to try to get the right pieces of advice. Even that's how I like came into contact with Taylor for the first time, where I invited her on my podcast that I was doing. Like you said, you know, white guys in their 20s need to fill the void.
Right.
That's what we do. So, you know, that was part of my journey in that way. So I'm happy that you gave a good answer. I think it's I don't know. I think it's very insightful. It's smart. People got to really be, I think self-awareness for me is the biggest thing you said there, where know that you can do it.
Self-aware, keep learning, surround yourself with like people.
Yeah. The three keys. Yeah. And then what I can steal this one from Harvick. What car did you first drive? And then what do you drive now?
All right. So I first drove a 1994 Chevy S10. It was like, you know how the petties, they mix the blue and white to make petty blue. This was like someone accidentally mixed a little bit of blue into a green and made this really ugly like teal color, right? I got it when I was 16, promptly rear-ended someone like a month after I got my license.
Always the way.
Yeah, and that thing was awesome. I love that. I still would like to have that truck. I sold it for like $300. But yeah, it was gifted to me by a friend of mine, and he was like, "Here, have this POS." And I was like, "Oh, cool.
Get it out of my yard."
Yeah, exactly. So that was my first car, and what I drive now, I drive a Volkswagen Jetta, just because I love Volkswagens. Obviously it runs in the family apparently. But yeah, it's a great car.
Is it a hot boy? Is it a hot boy Jetta,
No.
or is it a let me get from point A to B Jetta?
This might be go along with this is maybe not highest take in the sport, but it's like people confuse. Do you ever get this where people confuse you liking racing with being a car guy? Because I'm not a car guy at all.
Yes,
I'm not a car
very
guy
much.
at all.
I've learned that.
Yeah.
I've learned that as a car guy who got into the motorsports side after that. I do that. I assume everyone is a car guy. Oh, you watch racing? What do you drive? A Porsche GT3 RS? Like, what's your dream car? And people are like, nah, dude. Like, I drive an Accord. Like, I'm happy. Yeah. I like that. Like,
no, I drive a Jetta, and I have like cool wheels on it because a friend of mine gave them to me. Like, I don't even know where they're from. But yeah, my favorite rebuttal to like, oh, what kind of car do you, or whatever, assuming I'm a car guy, is like, you watch football? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, how much air's in a football? What's the science behind a football? Like,
that's a good.
Give me the ingredients to how you make a hockey puck. Like, yeah. What's the rubber compound in
brand of pads? Yeah. Like, you'd really know? Like,
yeah. Hottest take in the sport. Oh, God.
This is a big one to chew off. Like, like I didn't set you up for great success with such a broad question.
This might not be hot, but it's something I believe is true, and I've had a lot of come to Jesus moments about. Mainly my friend Seth beating me over the head with this information. No next gen racing right now is good. Not even the mile and a half. Not even the mile.
None of it.
It's good for what it is, but it's not better than mile and a half racing we had back in the day. It may be closer. It may be, it's not okay. I'll put it like this. It might be more exciting, but it's not for the right reasons, right?
Okay. I like
The
that. I like the way you
cars
position that.
The cars are out of control, not because they're hard to drive, but it's because they're dumb. Like they're
Yeah.
like,
They're not hard to drive. They're
oh
broken.
yeah,
Okay.
drivers can't save the car because it's so hard to drive. I'm like, no, they can't save the car because you can't save the car. It doesn't.
Right.
Kyle Larson doesn't matter if it's Kyle Larson or the 6-lap down ARCA guy. They're gonna have the same. Like they're not gonna be able to, drive it the same. So it's we need to go back and really recalibrate our minds as to what good racing is, because right now we have a serious problem in this series, and I don't see a lot of great races anymore.
It gets scary, man.
It's
because
scary.
We see what we see out of the next gen car,
Yeah.
and then what we see coming up behind it is EV demos.
Yeah.
And this progress is happening. Things are developing, but not in the right direction.
No.
Like we're developing the wrong way.
Well,
like sometimes like the Lincoln commercial, you got to go back to go forward.
Dude.
Like you have to sometimes.
I'll tell you what. There's one thing that EV thing has right. NASCAR will put 1,000 horsepower in anything but a cup car. That thing has 1,000. I was talking to David Reagan after that, and he was explaining the specs of it, and I was like, okay. I'm like, he's like, it's a lot of the base of the next gen car. I'm like, damn it.
Okay, that's not what I wanted to hear.
Darn it. And then he's like, it has 1,000 horsepower, and I was like,
Here's perk
I
up,
was like,
yeah.
I was like, really? Like,
No fooling, Mr. Reagan. It really has it.
Really? But yeah. Like I said, I think if you really take a step back and look at the reasons why things are exciting, it's out of the driver's hands, and the drivers are in less control of how good the racing is than they've ever been. SMT data, or I guess that's the company, so it's not SMT anymore. That has had in my opinion, had a huge huge part in really hurting the racing, because everybody tries to drive the same, and that's not what we want.
They try to build the cars all the same.
Yeah,
and then it's really about it reminds me of like what happens. It reminds me of F1. Like I watched one F1 race this year. I watched the Suzuka Grand Prix, and it was like their broadcasters are talking more about how the qualifying is the race, not the race.
Yeah.
And it's like when you get to a point where if you don't qualify well and you can't, and I'm not saying like guys should be able to drive from 30th to first, like, but
Matt Kenseth did it. Matt Kenseth used to do it every week. Kevin Harvick started 32nd in the Daytona 500. You're damn right, I believe it, or remember it. Like,
but you could like being able to do that gives that on-track product that I think a lot of people like us are like. We saw it happen. We remember it. Don't tell us you can't.
It tells you that these drivers are great. Like, when they are able to do amazing things. But we see a lot of it. It's more car than driver right now, and that's something we need to get back to. And it's I think it can't be said enough. We don't criticize it because we hate it. We criticize it because we love it and we want it to be better.
Yeah. I agree. I think that's a good perspective to give people too, is that because there's a lot of people who like, we're just a couple of heads on the internet. People be like, well, what'll you do about it? And it's like, well, we're out here talking about it because if the more you talk about it, the better chance we're going to get of seeing it get better. And we don't talk about it to like, just put it down, but to make it good because we like it. If we have the passion for it.
If everybody keep their lips pursed and sat on their hands after Martinsville 2022 in the spring and was like, well, I guess this is short track racing now, we would have no improvement. But instead, we have some of the softest tires we've ever had, and we're trying like every short track race to try to make it better. So I mean, you got to talk about it.
Yeah, 100%. All right, buddy, we've been cooking on this bad boy for just over an hour. Is there anything extra special you wanna let people know before we hang them up tonight?
I'll tell you what, if you see me at Charlotte this weekend, it's gonna be a bad weekend to be a Busch Light. And I'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that, man.
All right. And where can people find you online so they can follow along with all your Cars Tour adventures and decide where you're going to be so they can throw a couple bush lights your way this weekend?
That'd be awesome. Yeah, especially if you're willing to do that. It's real tough, real hard, but it's at the Buddy Pulley everywhere. I know that's maybe hard to remember, but it's at the Buddy Pulley everywhere, and it's the because there's only one.
All right, cool.
Yep.
Well, buddy, thank you for coming and doing this. I know this is the first one. You're the kick in the door for me doing these, so I appreciate you kind of chopping it up and giving us some insight into what you're doing, what you're talking about, where you come from in terms of being a fan and what you've got locked in for the future. And all right, if people, I guess I'll say this even tomorrow too. I guess I don't know. It's weird to do the recording and then do it live, but it's like I'll tell people if they want to be a part of the show and do interviews like you've just heard from Buddy, to reach out and we'll get something cooking. But Buddy, thank you for doing it with me today.
Man, thank you so much for having me. It was really fun.
Oh, I'm muted, huh? That was rough. I want to thank Buddy again for coming on and doing the show. Let me repeat all of those things that I just said. I just want to thank Buddy for coming on and doing the show. He's fantastic to have on as a guest. Just the Cars Tour aficionado in all the right places, talking to all the right people, being a part of all the right things, and just I love that we got into the side of it where talking about like the imposter syndrome of the industry, and we have such a love for it that it's hard to realize, okay, this is real life. We have to be professionals and we get these opportunities. Not everybody gets. So, Buddy's good people. If you see him at the Coke 6, throw him a bush light, crack a beer with him, enjoy the weekend with Buddy. I'm sure he'll be out there rolling around with a bunch of the ATYL media crew that'll be at the track this weekend. So, the biggest thing, in the sprint cars, your siblings never tossed you in the dryer. You must have had nice siblings, Taylor. I don't know. Your siblings never tossed you in the dryer and sent you for a spin. That's what I feel like a sprint car wreck feels like. And then we always talk about too. It's interesting. Somebody brought it up in the chat while the interview was going on. Was just is that if SVG doesn't dominate at road courses the rest of the season, he's going to be on the hot seat. And then if Daniel's gone at the end of the season, Trackhouse is doing what they can to really make it work where they can. I think Zilich is going to come in and take over that Suarez ride. I think we're closer to that than we've ever been. But I mean, Buddy's big on putting SVG up there with the Larsons and the Verstappens of the world. Obviously, the supercar guys don't get as much love as maybe they should for the level of racing they do down there in Australia. And it's not a not for the faint of heart to race in those types of cars. So definitely something different. Definitely something that deserves a lot of respect too in terms of the supercar racing. But yeah, hopefully y'all enjoy a little interview style stuff where we can kind of talk about the industry at large versus just what's going on week to week. With that in mind, let's talk a little bit about the Coke 6 before I pull the Wordle up. The Coke 6 this weekend, it's the race for NASCAR. It's the one for us. So I just want people to really have all the information and know what they're watching in front of them. I'm going to make sure I have all the information and I know what I'm going to tell you. So this race is on Amazon Prime. So that's already something to pay attention to. This is the first race on Amazon Prime. It's the newest, latest, greatest TV deal kind of change. It's May 25th, this Sunday, 6 p.m. the race starts. It is a 400 lap, 600-mile race on Prime. You can listen on PRN as well as Sirius XM. You're not going to want to miss it. It is one of the best races of the year always. Something about Charlotte just brings out, it's the hometown track. It brings out all the juice. These drivers just they want this one a little more a lot of the time. So it's one of those crown jewel events that you just one of those crown jewel events that you just, as a driver, they don't want to let the opportunity pass. So, and then real quick too, I did it last week. I can do it again this week. We have some power rank shifting where Christopher Bell is overtaking William Byron for the number 2 spot in the power rankings. Chase Elliott moves up to 4th as Hamlin moves down a spot. Logano moves up to 6th in the power rankings after the All-Star break. Ryan Blaney stayed out on that strategy of the older tires with the Penske cars. He ended up not finishing so hot at Wilkesboro. He drops down to 8th in the power rankings. That's a 3-spot drop for him. Bowman, Chastain stayed the same as 9th and 10th in the power rankings. And then there's a little bit of movement here as we go through the rest of the field in terms of who's in the top 20. But Kyle Busch making a jump in the power ranking this week, up 4 spots. I can find him. Where'd he go? Yeah, up 4 spots. Running the top 10 inside the top 10 most of the day, finishing top 10 the first time since Darlington. I love this. They put still a ways to go here, but RCR has been known to pop off a random win in the Coke 600. A race Busch generally tends to be among the favorites. Pop off a win. I hope so. In terms of favorites go for the Coke 600, it's tough. I feel like the Penske cars are such a threat now. Joey's obviously got his win, but I think that 12 cars is got something for him. But I wouldn't put it past some of the top contenders. William Byron sticks out to me. He's a guy who's kind of flown under the radar since that 500 win, finishing really consistently and really well, but just the expectation is that he will do that. So you forget that he's out there doing it. But I do think there's chances for drivers like Denny Hamlin, even Josh Berry, Chase Elliott. I think there's a number of drivers that could really take advantage of the uniqueness and of the Coke 600 and the distance. Obviously, all eyes are going to be on Kyle Larson. They're going to want to know. People are going to want to know what's going on there and if he can make it through the double as part of the Memorial Day weekend festivities. So I am going to pull the Wordle up. We are over time for our show this morning, but I'm going to pull the Wordle up. United Hot Rods, what's going on? We're going to answer a couple questions while we're doing the Wordle, and then we're gonna mosey on through the day today. And let's see. Oh boy, there it is on TikTok. It's big. Here she is, the Wordle. Sorry guys. I don't have like scenes set up very well on my devices, so you'll have to forgive me for my the way I have this set up. It's not ideal. All right, cool. Everybody can see everything. Hold on. There I am in the bottom. Okay, cool. Put it up over here, maybe. Can we do that? It's a little slow. Okay, no, I like the other one better. You can see the wordle bigger. All right, let's give it a shot. Let's get the ad block. All right, cool. Let's see. Since I'm wearing the slide job hat today, let's do slide as our first word. Okay. E is the final letter. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, being the long strategy, the long run, everything is about the distance of this race, the longest race of the season. That's going to be the biggest factor in terms of keys to the race is biding your time and making sure that you're not getting down on yourself for anything early that happens and, being competitive and getting those stage points. But, the guys who need those will go get them. And the guys who are here to win will kind of focus, I'm sure will focus more so on those parts of the race. Okay. It's tough. These wordles get more and more difficult for my little pea brain some days. Yeah, it is the race of the year, I think. We were saying it earlier too, where I think in some places the Coke 600 is getting bigger than the Daytona 500. I think as the car, the car doesn't race the same at super speedways, so some of the luster might be lost at bigger, more traditional super speedways. Maybe tracks like the Coke 600 and Charlotte will kind of pick up that crown. Probe. Oh. That gave us a good thing here. Oh, probe was good. That gave us the ROB. BO. Now let's try BOR. BOR. I don't think this is a word. Wow! Born like Jason Bourne. That was the only word I could think of for sure that it was going to end up being. Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate it. I love being here to do the show. So I appreciate you being in the chat and especially on Twitter too. Make sure you're following us, ATYL Media, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, everywhere that you can. This show is live on these platforms every Tuesday morning, just about every Tuesday morning. And then you can find content from me at Slide Job Sal. That's where you can find me all over the internet. Again, Buddy Pulley, our guest today at the Buddy Pulley on social media. So make sure you're checking out all the creators here at ATYL, and make sure you're supporting sponsors that support us. Happy Hour Racing has been one of those long-standing supporters as we've gotten Above the Yellow Line Media up and running and rolling. Taylor has done an incredible job of getting all the creators involved and dealing with sponsors and getting partnerships built. Not just, oh, we'll do this for you, but real, true partnerships that we're trying to, create and curate. And Taylor's at the tip of the spear, leading those conversations and getting that put together where we can really be partners with brands in the industry that want to find success with us. So, make sure you're shopping at Happy Hour Racing, happyhourracing.com. They give you all these different options on what you can, like, it's not just a merchandise experience where you're going to go buy stuff, but you can sign up for race winning shirts every week or your favorite driver. You can shop for hats. You can shop for used or you shop for older stock. There's all kinds of discounts going on right now. Head over to happyhourracing.com. Don't let me butcher the deals. Check out what you can get right now. Right as we get into Memorial Day, if you're heading out to the Coke 600, you're going to need some new digs. Get over there and check it out. Make sure you're locked in and looking good down in Charlotte this weekend if you're heading out to the racetrack. I talked about going. I am not going. It's, my heart said yes. My checkbook said no. So we're in Sal's in full financial savings mode. For those of you who have been around here for a while, it's been a goal of mine to start to sock away some cash, and going to the Coke 6 just would have been a tough one after already going down to Charlotte earlier last month, just kind of on a vacation. So I probably should have saved up the vacation that I took to go for the race. That's what I should have done. But we didn't have that kind of foresight. I'm glad I went when I went. I got to see different types of things versus just being down there for a race and really enjoy the Charlotte metro area. It was great to go up to Mooresville and be in Huntersville and Cornelius and Lake Norman, and even go down into the city. And my favorite place to eat when I go to Charlotte is Optimist Hall. Of all the weird things you can get, things you should get in the Carolinas, there's this Indian restaurant in Optimist Hall all the way down at the end. You get the lamb burger sliders. Oh my God. They're so good. So I've been to the NASCAR hall. I went when I was on vacation. And I've been a few times since. It's interesting. They have a Kurt Busch exhibit in there now where Jimmy Johnson's fire suit used to be. All his fire suits used to be as you're heading up the stairs there past the simulators. It's all Kurt Busch's stuff now as they're getting ready for maybe him potentially being a Hall of Fame inductee. So that'd be really cool. I would love to get out to Rockingham next year. I didn't really put a schedule of races that I was going to go to together this year until very late in the year. And then I had some life things happen, and I've moved around in the last 2 months. And I'd like to kind of get a pre-established media schedule for myself, hopefully middle of this year, end of this year, and then for more of a full year next year. But I'm hoping to be out at Pocono, Dover, maybe Loudon, looking at the regional tracks, things that are close. Watkins Glen. There was a conversation I was having with a friend of mine who potentially we might be able to go to Iowa, which is not local, but it may line up perfectly so to be convenient for us to be out there based on some work things that we both have going on. So maybe there's an opportunity there as well. Would love to get to more tracks in the Carolinas. Would love to go to some different series too. After talking to Buddy, I mean, I'd love to see a Cars Tour race up close. I feel like Wilkesboro is the one, but having the chance to go maybe see Dale Jr. run or some of these other drivers that are bringing their talents to the Cars Tour, I would love to, maybe get a little more involved with some of those things. But as we go along here, hopefully everyone is locked in and involved and support ATYL Media and the sponsors. And that helps me kind of get where I need to go in the long run as well. So if you're up in the Northeast and you're a fan of modifieds and local short track racing, Wall Stadium Speedway, you can find me there. I try to be out at Wall as often as possible. Been doing some things in the booth. This last week was my first introduction to doing. I did the limited late model race for them this weekend, as well as some Victory Lane interviews and stuff. So looking forward to potentially doing more of that as time goes on. If you're out there, support the racetrack, please. It's in the final year of its lease. It's its 75th year in existence. We'd love to see it run for another 75 years. So if you're up my way, please do what you can. It's great racing. They're trying to fill the fields out a little bit better. The limited late model guys, that's not a very popular series up by me. Usually it's all mods. Wall Stadium modifieds are the ones. They're basically like smart mods, almost the same. But the guy I was talking to who won the race said he was going to get a couple of his buddies from Riverhead to come down with the limited late models and come take them for a rip around Wall Stadium, hopefully in 2 weeks. So, but on that note, we'll close it out today. Appreciate everybody for coming in, being a part of the conversation early here as we recapped Wilkesboro. We talked a little about the Coke 6 and about the Cars Tour modified racing that was going on at North Wilkesboro, the truck race, things with Corey Hyman, Lane Riggs, a little bit of a rivalry there between those two drivers in the truck series. It's good for the sport. Love it. We talked with Buddy ad nauseum today for quite a while. That interview, I love doing those. I think that's going to be a part of the show that maybe, happens every week or every other week. But just really looking forward to doing more of that and really connecting with people in the industry and in the audience who we can kind of chat with and unpack what they do. So until next week, I hope everybody has a beautiful, blessed week. It's only Tuesday, and we all enjoy the Coke 6, and we'll catch you right back here Tuesday morning.